We're going to talk a little bit first about the Marine Corps and what they can teach you. Historically, in management structures, when we look back, most of our management philosophy comes from warfighters, because what better place to learn about how to run your business effectively than basing it upon a military unit where your decisions are really life and death decisions. So we're going to take a close look a little bit at the Marine Corps and what we've learned from them. So welcome. This presentation, as the general indicated, is dedicated to two groups. And first is the Wounded Warriors Family Support group, and also the guys who were in the Chosin Reservoir. And it's really about teamwork, and we'll come back to that at the end and summarize with that. And it's also dedicated to all the war fighters who have defended our country over time, especially on this day, and their families. So, the core premise of the Marine Corps is, regardless of your job description, at a core function, we're here to learn about LinkedIn. I'll go back to that in a few minutes. Every Marine is a rifleman, which means that every person in your company, at their core, is a salesperson for your company. Now, until the advent of social media, not everybody realized this. So the guy on the floor, the guy in the accounting department, the woman who's answering the phone for human resources, every one of those people in your company is a rifleman. They're there to generate business for you. So that means that in the Marine Corps, when it's time, your first job duty, your first and only job duty, is being a rifleman. That's what you do in a company you sell. Your sales organization, your salespeople are your snipers. They're the people who are going to rifle shot marketing, and LinkedIn is about rifle shot marketing, because your customers are the targets. So when I do presentations, I sometimes find that, oh God, here's going to be another speaker, and how long is he going to babble on about something, and I wish I had an outline. So here's my outline. We're going to talk a little bit about social media at the outset. We're going to then talk about social media in broader terms, move on to LinkedIn, about why it's critical, how to complete your profile, so this is some of the nuts and bolts information, why your interests, hobbies, affiliation, and groups are important, why you should fill out this information, how you can leverage it for your company as an entire group, and then products, services, recommendations. Where do you put that? How do you get that listed on LinkedIn? How do you become a lean manufacturing fighting machine? How do you perform? And then some team building opportunities through LinkedIn. Finally, we'll talk about how we connect it with other social media. And if you've heard in some previous presentations, we're going to tie it together with what SEO is. It's search engine optimization and where that fits. So we start with a historical big picture perspective. At some point around 1981, you guys decided, everybody decided they needed a fax machine. The day before that, you didn't need a fax machine, but in order to do business after that, you needed a fax machine. Sometime around 94, 95, you had to get an email address. The day before that, you didn't need an email address to do business, but that day, you need an email address. What confuses all of this today is there's a whole bunch of things happening in conjunction with each other. You've got mobile technology evolving, you've got social media happening, and there's tons of social media spaces, and then you've got cloud computing where you store it. This can be confusing. It's a lot happening at once. It's just not one technology, it's not just one disruption, there's a whole bunch of things happening. Why it's critical is because of the demographics of it. We have to look at where the number's at. Who's using this? Where are they coming from? When we look at segments, and these are over a period of time from 05 to 011, the key number here that we're looking at is, notice the 18 to 29 group is 83% adoption. The 30 to 49% group is a 70% adoption of LinkedIn. That's who's using this. So most people in business are using this. But as we look at this on a daily basis, who uses it on a daily basis? So 61% of that 18 to 29% group is using LinkedIn right now. That's yesterday. That's daily. So of the people on that demo, in that 30 to 49 group, Who specs out products? It's not the senior management. Senior management isn't the people who look for products. It's the young engineer right out of school who has to do the grunt work, who's going to do the research. He's doing the research here, amongst other places. That's the demo that you want to get found in. LinkedIn's big. Who here, who doesn't have a LinkedIn profile? Please raise your hand. Okay, everybody has a LinkedIn. LinkedIn's that popular. When we look at how people make decisions on LinkedIn, the numbers, again, just skyrocket. They keep going up. Everything in this presentation is dated. The minute that I arrived in Chicago, everything here is already old news. It's changing that fast. Part of social media I compare it to, and LinkedIn's not the exception. I reworked this whole presentation again Saturday because it changed. Social media, LinkedIn, is similar to 1849 in San Francisco. You arrive on the ship, you get your gold map, you go up to the gold fields and you dig. 3 weeks later, you come back. The steamer that you came in, everybody deserted ship. They sank the steamer, knocked the top off, 3 steamers behind it, filled it in with dirt, and there's a 4-story brothel on top of the steamer that you had. It changes that fast, it's dynamic, and it's happening right now that quickly. So there's going to be enhancements all the time to this platform. 3 out of 4 people on LinkedIn are using this for business. So 75%. We start looking at how that's broken down by age group. Again, where's your target audience? How old are they? Who's the decision makers for you? Here's where the data becomes important. The premise of LinkedIn is pretty simple. It's, if you've heard of the term 6 degrees of separation, so that I know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody else that knows yet another person, and there's the guy I want to talk to. And somehow, they know Kevin Bacon. So if you've heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or played that game. But everybody's connected on the planet. And how are they connected? It's just a few people away. The objective here is to help you find the people that you need to be connected to or that you already know and want to leverage. We're going to talk about SEO very briefly. SEO is search engine optimization. So when there's an algorithm, and this is part of how that algorithm works. How do relationships happen? When you search in Google or Yahoo, how do you find things? You type in a series of keywords. And the robot helps you find that. So instead of looking at manufacturing, let's take a look at something simple. I'm going to look for shoes. Everybody knows that if I type in the word shoes, what am I going to find? Who knows? So over time, you type in more keywords. I want men's shoes because I'm male. So that limits how that search happens. I get tighter and I say, I want red Nike men's running shoes. That takes me down this curve that gets me tighter in the information that I'm wanting. So how you create your profile, the keywords that you use, the fields that you fill in or don't fill in when your competitor does, is going to affect how you get found as a company. So when you look at a LinkedIn profile, you'll see a lot of profiles, since everybody here, nobody raised their hand, it'll say company website. Now, company website, the robot doesn't know what the name of your company is. It has a URL behind it, and you can click on it because you put that in. But it doesn't say your company. It doesn't tie it to the robot. You don't double dip into it. You don't tweak the algorithm and say, my company's name is this. These are small things that you can do. So how you do that is you go to Edit Profile. Here's my company down at the bottom. And you select the Other category. Don't select My Company, select Other. It's pretty simple. That pushes all the fields over and allows you to type your company name in as you want it to appear. So now your company name appears. It's good for the computers, but it's also, you can now specify up to 3 of them. So you've got a Facebook page, a YouTube channel. You can put those in here. Here's your blog. Put it in there and say, this is my blog. Not my company, my blog. Is it your personal blog or your company blog? This allows you to name it. This is where you tweak that in. The interesting thing that happens is when somebody starts looking at you, so if you woke up and you looked through your spyglass and you saw this man looking at you, you would take an interest in him. People are naturally curious when you look at them. So LinkedIn does that. So it'll say your profile has been viewed by 6 people in the past few days. Well, if you're in sales, if you're an organization, I'm looking at a company. Why is this company looking at me? I want to know that. I'm going to be curious. Because you learn curiosity as a kid. You want to look at things. You want to find out where things are at. So last week, here's who looked at me. I want you to make a mental note of something. Which one of these profiles who looked at my profile did you look at first? And hold that thought. To change that, you want to go to settings. And in the settings, you're going to go down to profile, see who can see you. Select this one. Put your picture. It's the top one. You don't lock it down. You don't say I'm anonymous. If you look at somebody's profile, I mean, why wouldn't you want somebody to know that you're looking at their profile? You're looking for a reason. So that means that they're going to come back and look at your profile and what your company does and hopefully click through to your website. Now, if you're doing market research on a competitor, they're going to find out that you're doing market research anyway. The problem that's going to happen more often than not is you're going to forget to change it back if you set your profile to anonymous, and then the people that you want to find you aren't going to be able to. Leave it set to open. And again, that's right up here under settings. Now, picture's worth 1,000 words. We've heard this a million times. And so when somebody's having fun, it brings a smile to your face. So here's the first test. I want you to tell me which one of these 2 profiles you look at first. Which one of these? Let me know. 1, 2, or 3. Sales engineer. Which one? First one? Miles? The one with the picture. Take a look at this one. Now, which one of these people do you think you stand a better chance of getting introduced to? You share 2 connections with the first person, but where'd the eye go to? The eye went to the picture. People look at pictures. There's a thing called a bounce rate. It's how much time somebody's going to spend looking at your profile. If you don't have a profile picture up there, they're not going to click through anything else or read anything. They want to have a face to a name. People do business with people. I need a face to know. You put your face in there, and then they'll look at you. Now, we're going to plug in some SEO information here. This is one of my clients is Technics. They make rotary tool holders. So this is Mike Enix, and he agreed to be the guinea pig. This is before he modified his profile. So let's look at his profile before it got fixed. He has no picture, so nobody's going to spend any time there. The other thing that he doesn't have his website. So if there's no website, how do I get to the website to know what he does? He's the national sales manager. Where's the connection to the website? How am I going to find out about the product? There's no keywords in this. He doesn't have any descriptions whatsoever on this. And there's even a little alert from LinkedIn, because that alert says, does this guy even work here? It wants to know, is he a legitimate person or is this made up? Because his profile is that incomplete. The robot thinks it's fake. It's been flagged. This is why you want to have a complete profile. So this is a complete failure on search engine optimization. This doesn't get found. This doesn't link to anything. It has a company name, but there's no URL wiring to connect it for the robots, because robots can only read what's written. So here's how he did the update. Again, this is the before. Here's the after. And what you see is he's got his websites in. He tells you where everything's at. There's 3 websites there. They're named. They're consistent naming. So it's always Technics USA as their brand name that they've selected out there. That's the branding that's used throughout everything. There's the Facebook, there's the YouTube. They have other social media accounts, but what they've done from a strategic standpoint as a company and a sales organization is they've got different people displaying different websites on there. So it balances out who has what. It's not top heavy in one area. You'll see that Twitter's now set up, and you can follow him directly on Twitter. And he's modified his, let's call it vanity URL, his personal URL. So originally you would have to go to LinkedIn, Mike, Enix with all these numbers and dashes after it. LinkedIn allows you to fix this, so now it's nice and clean, and it says right down here that it's just Mike Enix. I'm Mike Enix at LinkedIn. It ties it all together. It takes you only a few seconds to change this setting, claim it. I talk about something else throughout the week in social media. If you've heard the expression that when you own a hammer, everything you see is a nail, your keyboard is your hammer. Every blank field you see in any social media site, especially LinkedIn, is a nail. Fill it in. Don't leave it blank. If it's blank, the robot can't find things. If you're unsure of your job description, think about this for a minute, and I don't cover that. LinkedIn just made some changes, so I had to delete a couple slides out of here Friday. But here's the point. What's your job description? Google your job description, your title. There's a headhunter looking for somebody who does your job. So you Google 4 or 5 of them instead of trying to write this profile on your own, and piece them together, copy, paste, and edit, and say, this is actually what I do, and it looks pretty good. But all of those keywords that are in the job description for what you do are now in your profile, because that's what headhunters are using to find stuff. So fill in your profile correctly with what you do. And look, Mike has his picture now, so it's good. And he even put his contact information. So if you don't want to just click through, but you want to pick up the phone and call him or email him, you can. So what's next? Download the mobile version. Mobile technology growth is through the roof right now. There's mobile versions of all the apps. This app is wonderful because you can download the connections. Most people who have smartphones now are still operating off of first name is Dave, and this is Dave J, and this is Johnson Day D, but they never put the address, the connection fields, the email addresses. The data on the cell phone is not clean. Nobody's cleaned up their database. LinkedIn allows you to get better data with a name, with a picture, with all this contact information, and import it right into your smartphone. It's a quick down and dirty way. Instead of you typing this in, pull it into the phone, download the app. It's made for mobile. And I even included BlackBerry on here, even though the RIM is pretty much non-existent. I know a lot of people still use Blackberries. Import your LinkedIn contacts into all this, as we just talked about. Got a little bit ahead of myself there. So, if your customers can see you, they can send you an invite to connect. So, I'm looking on LinkedIn. I'm at IMTS, and I'm having a drink with a guy at a bar. And he says, I have an application, I need a solution for this. Well, you know what? I used to work with a guy 15 years ago at IMTS, or I was next to him in a booth 15 years. I know Tom does this. I haven't connected to Tom, though. But this is a lead for Tom. This is a cool thing. I like Tom. He was a nice guy. I should, because it's the perfect solution. His product fixes exactly what this guy said. I learned about it. So let's connect with Tom. I hit the connect button, and what do I see? I see this thing that says, what's Tom's email address? I haven't seen Tom in years. If I knew his email address, I'd email him. I want to pass on business to him, but I can't. So I guess Tom's too important. The only way people connect with him is that if they know his email address. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So this is, again, an SEO fail. To fix this setting, and when people are new to LinkedIn, they forget to come back. They fix everything else. They forget to go through all those settings individually and figure out what they did at the beginning because they weren't sure of the platform. You've got to fill in your email address. Here's how you do it. First question, is there any reason why you would not want to connect with somebody? So if somebody comes up to you and says, I would like to connect with you on LinkedIn and we're in the same industry, there are reasons. This person's an open networker, they're connected to too many people, I don't trust them. You can say no. You can click, no, I don't want to connect. but you shouldn't shut them down on the front side. So not shutting them down on the front side is letting them have the opportunity to say, I'd like to connect with you. You go to your settings once again, right down here in email preferences, and you change it to anyone. It's one of the most often overlooked things that people forget about even after they've been on LinkedIn a while because they forget to change this one setting. So come in and fix it. Go through all those controls down there after you've set it up. Make sure everything's right, and if you're not sure of it, think about why it might be right. Again, anyone. Now, I want you to remember Mr. Law here, because we're going to come back to him in a few minutes. But see, he's a national sales manager at an organization. You've got to be ready for new connections. You've got to be ready to meet new people. Because that all goes back, and I want you to keep in mind, to SEO, how your company gets found, how you do business as a company. Bob has 167 connections. You can also take your existing data, and we're going to come back to Bob. You can take your existing data in there from your database, from your address book, Outlook, and import them into LinkedIn. When I started using LinkedIn, I brought one address book in of friends, and then it was some friends from college, and I had separate address books. Eventually, I just dumped them all in because I discovered some really cool things. When I filled out my profile at one point, I put that I wrestled in college. Well, I started as a process before I would meet somebody for the first time. I'd say, hey, you should know a little bit about me. I'm going to send you an invitation to LinkedIn to look at my profile. I walked into the meeting, the guy looked at me and he goes, you wrestled? I said, I wrestled. He said, I like wrestlers. I come from a wrestling family. I like working with wrestlers. So if you're in sales, the rapport step is now done. This is why your hobbies become important. Import your contacts. You don't know. When I first imported my contacts, I looked at this and I was literally picking up the phone and saying, oh my God, I do business with this guy, but he's best friends and goes to church with my fraternity brother who lives in that state. Didn't know that. You don't know where the connections are going to come from. So you dump the file up, and then it's a team effort. You need to get your employees and everybody on your team to think about this. So procedurally, from a business standpoint, remember every person in your company is going to help you sell and promote yourself. Make sure that they've updated their profile. There's also something called a Lion, and it's a LinkedIn open networker. And they connect to anybody. And I have a policy, you can have your own policy, but what you'll see, and personally, I prefer only to be contacted by people that I've done business with, met, talked to in person, or exchanged discussions with on forums or somewhere else. I don't connect to just anybody because my connections, my personal connections, I view as valuable. I don't want them being solicited. I don't want somebody coming in and send them spam emails. I need to protect my connections. But there is something called a LinkedIn Open Networker, and they connect to everybody. But that means they can see all your contacts. The second part of this is down here, is I also am wary of people. If I connect to you, you send me an invitation, and all your connections are turned off. That runs in the face of LinkedIn. This is about networking and who you know that I know and who we share as contacts. It's about sharing being the key word. If you're going to data mine my contacts and I can't even see yours, I don't trust you. We're not going to be connected anymore because I'm protecting my people, because the only reason you'd have them turned off is to data mine my connections. I don't want that. I want to protect my stuff. I view open networkers as empty bottles. A friend of mine called me up who hadn't had a LinkedIn profile, who hadn't had a Twitter, and in 3 weeks he works in the oil and gas industry and he has this new forum site. Nice guy. And he says, I'm now connected to the CEO. I have 500 connections. I'm connected to the CEO, the CFO, the sales manager of all these organizations. I'm connected to them. And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with the connections? If you reach out to them, why are they going to talk to you? Can you actually do business with them if you've never talked to them? I think this is the downside of being an open networker. Don't accept the connections unless you're comfortable with the people. Now, you can also set up a company page on LinkedIn. It used to be right here, and we'll come back and fix that in a minute. When you click on that, and you'll see I'm going to use Mike Enix's here, you can come at, have the company page for your profile, but you can also list your products or services. Again, this is SEO. So let's take a look at one product. They put a product in here, and here's what you can do on a product page. So it becomes a nice little synopsis-sized bullet point, here's what this product does, in summary. So this is kind of like a press release, but much more cleaned up because you're not writing for an editor, it's a product description. What you can do here, again, from the Products tab, you can add your YouTube video on that product. You can have followers. People can follow this product who like it. You can have a direct link to your website from this page. So they want more, they can go right to your website, they can order and do whatever order entry process you have there. But you can fill in a lot of detail on the product. And you can say who's in charge of it. So remember Mike Enix, he fixed his profile. Well, at this point he didn't have a profile, but here's the product managers for that particular product. Here's who you can call on LinkedIn, here's who you can connect to. You can tie it together within your organization. And remember Mr. Law? Well, Mr. Law was a result of some requesting of recommendations. So you've got customers who really like your stuff. These guys put tooling on CNC machines. They want to work with OEMs. So using another piece of social media, and you can read this through, Mr. Law, who's CNC automation, follow him for IMTS. He said, I'm testing some tooling, and the shrink fit holders are awesome. He wrote a recommendation for the tool. That's wonderful. So via Twitter, Technics came back and said, hey, that's great. Why don't you write a recommendation on the thing, and we'll send you a shirt for writing a recommendation with our logo on it. So he came over and he wrote a recommendation, which means that recommendation, all of his customers get to see, all of his connections get to see, and it's there. Here's the national sales manager recommending this product. You have associated, every company that's in this show has relationships with other companies that are non-competitive. You know other people that can write recommendations for your product or your service. You work in conjunction with them. That's the nature of manufacturing. Help each other out. If you're comfortable, if the tools work, if the stuff that you're doing works with them, write a recommendation for them, get recommendations from them. That way, remember, people do business with people. If they trust this person and this guy wrote the recommendation or this woman wrote the recommendation, they're more apt to call you. It's about relationships. Again, Bob's from CNC Automation. So what we've covered is we've covered how to set up some things on LinkedIn. We've looked a little bit about how staff and other members should all have LinkedIn profiles and how you can do that. You should have an overall strategy of how these things connect. Got to click there. Now, we're going to cover next some searching for some prospects. We're going to talk a little bit about industry groups, how to engage through some other avenues in social media. Most importantly is how we're going to, what's important to remember here is that you need to regularly comment and update a status, and if somebody updates a status that you're connected to and you feel it's worthwhile, click like, click share, read the stuff. Don't just set this stuff up and let it go. Look what's happening. If people are saying nice things about you, you need to come back and acknowledge that they've said nice things about you. And then look through opportunities through your staff. There's a manufacturing company that has a CNC operator, and it turns out as we're talking at one point, I said to the sales manager, I said, who else does this guy know? He goes, well, it's amazing. The company we've been trying to break into for 15 years, this guy who's our CNC operator, his wife's sister is the CFO of this company. Well, this guy's not in sales. This is a nice connection, though. The sister's the CFO of one of your employees. Maybe you guys should get together for a barbecue. So there's other ways to get in and connected to this business. LinkedIn groups. Every article that you're going to see out there when you start looking at LinkedIn groups is they're going to say, start your own group. And there's a ton of reasons they're going to tell you why you should start your own group. And these are some of the reasons. And I'm not even going to bother reading them because as soon as this finishes loading, you're going to see what I think about it. You can get lead generation from this. You can manage your content. You can help others. In my view, starting your own group at this point in time on LinkedIn is not reaching for the low-hanging fruit. This is reaching for the gold apple at the top that may not exist. Because too many people have read this over time and too many people have started their own group in our industry and every other one. Look at the number of companies out there. So in LinkedIn, you want to appear different, right? So all the big companies are going to have big groups because they started a group, they got in on this game a while ago. But look at all these small companies out here. Most of the businesses that are in this industry are small companies. If every small company has a group, how many people are going to come to it? 5? It's going to be tough to get people to come to your group unless it's a worthwhile topic. But that's not the only problem with it. There's some really big organizations. And when you look at these organizations, maybe you should join these groups first. Because this one has 8,500 members. Here's 1,700 members of the IMTS group. You're going to know people within these groups. These are the people that you can meet and can connect to. When I search for manufacturing groups on LinkedIn, so I type in search for group, look how many results of groups I get. I get 5,800, almost 5,900 groups in manufacturing. It doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to come in and start another group at this point. It's saturated. A group also requires curation. You're going to have to moderate that. Somebody's going to have to be in charge. So what happens when somebody comes in and starts putting a sales message in there, something that's blatantly wrong? You got to moderate it. You're in charge. There's other groups out there that exist where you don't have to moderate. You can come in and participate. So become a member of the relevant groups. Participate in those discussions. Then look for targets of opportunity. Remember, targets of opportunity is the low-hanging fruit. So just like that sniper that's out there isn't going to shoot the guy, he's going to shoot the missile. He's going to shoot the engine. He's going to stop everything in its tracks. You want to look for those targets. You want to figure out what's the thing and what's the group that I need to be in where I need to respond to an application question. Here's where my product can benefit. Here's where my organization can benefit. I can help you here. This is the thought leader discussion that you heard in a previous social media presentation earlier today. This is how you become the thought leader. Answer questions. That's the low-hanging fruit. This is the easy way to come in. Instead of trying to work your own group, work in other groups, read the opportunities there. So tactically, there's a whole bunch of groups to join. These are probably some of the top groups in our industry right here who are on LinkedIn, if you're a member of them. And this is by no means a comprehensive list. You can be a member of up to 50 LinkedIn groups. Join the industry groups. See which ones are relevant to your conversation. You may find that there's some in here who aren't curated, and you're going to get solicited every other 5 minutes by an insurance company or a banking company because the people who are curating it are doing a horrible job. And I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm saying there are groups in that of those 5,000 manufacturing. Nobody watches over it, and it's just a big solicitation, and you leave it. So stay in the ones that you find relevant. Review them before you join them. This is a pretty good group, actually. This CNC Manufacturing Network, good group. SME, good group. Look at how many members are in the group. So here's 10,000 people that will be exposed to something. So if you post a relevant article that's on SME's group website, that's a technical article, that's a solution, that's a backlink to your blog, like the guys at Xair do a tremendous job. The guys at Xair are sitting right over here. They do a tremendous job of writing blogs. They post it to these groups. This stuff goes out. People read the technical information. It gets shared. And it's like the old Fabergé commercial. And they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. it starts here with the conversation. Again, members of AMT, and this is an old screenshot, so that's when they had only 2,000 members. The nice thing is you can also search for members within this group. There's a search function here on LinkedIn. I'd encourage you to use it. There's a big cycle. If you've seen the snake that devours itself, Ouroboros, it just goes in one big cycle. It's like the recycling symbol. You're going to be listening, you're going to be building community, you're going to be broadcasting, you're going to be putting out content, and it's going to come back to listening again. You're going to see how people respond, and you're going to create more content. Respond and answer. Answer questions. So, there's some functionality that's not live that was announced last week at LinkedIn. You're going to be able to add pictures. This may or may not be turned on today, but it's coming down the pike. So what you'll be able to post is data. And I'm taking screenshots from Facebook in this case because this technology that I'm describing right here does not yet exist, but they've announced it. You can post a picture. That means that you can post technical charts. That means that those questions will remain there for a long time. They stay there so the robots can find them. So here's a conversation about this particular chart. Hey, how did you come up with those numbers? Well, here's how we came up with the numbers. Oh, hey, thanks. Where would you put a line to find the median on this? Well, we can't really put a line, but you should check out these other companies who have a way of putting the line. That conversation's there. They're not saying we have all the answers. They're saying, here's another, remember we talked about other companies a few minutes ago, that guy I met, Tom? Well, this isn't Tom, but this is another company. This guy can help you out. He does that kind of analysis. This is what we talked about earlier, Miles. Remember, yeah. Remember, your customers are the target. What are your customers going to see? What do you do when you go into, you want to buy a product, and you go to Target or you go to Walmart, and you read the product reviews, right? What do people say about them? Well, in this case, because this is social media, now you as a company get to respond. So if you post a blog out there, and this guy asks a question about the picture that you can now post on LinkedIn, and you don't respond to him, everybody else comes in and reads that. They're going to say, oh, this company doesn't have a legitimate answer to this. I'm not going to buy for them, cross them off the chart. It's the same way as buying any other product from a retail outlet. It's a very specific group of people that are going to be coming to read this from you right appropriately because it's going to stay there forever. Timing is everything. So when you do an event, IMTS has an events page. Any events that you take part in as a company, if you're doing an open house, if you're attending someone else's event, jump in here and click I'm attending. Because it doesn't take that much time to have everybody in your company that's at IMTS to say they're going to be at IMTS. And what happens when they do that and say I'm attending, it takes all of a second. But what happens over here? The top number of people from a company attending displays at the top. Your company name shows at the top, and it's hot linked back to your company page. That's a good thing. It doesn't take much. This is where the team part comes in. The memo goes out and says, everybody say, click on this link. You're on LinkedIn, your profile's set up, we're going to this, click on it. And that applies not only on LinkedIn, that's all social media. That didn't hurt to do that. That's easy. It takes a second. It's a matter of getting your people on the same page to implement this. So there's some more updates that are happening. One of the things that you'll start to see is now all the contact information on LinkedIn. So this is completely different on the way it's viewed graphically than it did previously. The contact information is down here. This is how it used to look at the bottom screen. You can see it's distinctly different. You've got to do some drop downs on things. Again, the platforms are changing. What used to be this pop-up to where, remember that little icon that we clicked in to make this pop up down here? That's gone. This is now hot on your company name. So expect more of these changes over time. In June, Twitter and LinkedIn broke up. If you had Twitter connected to your account before and you have a Twitter account, you may want to come in and verify this connection, because this connection may not be connected. It may show it being connected, but you want to come in and click through it and all the settings. That's as of last week. That may get cleaner. And you can also display, if you have multiple Twitter accounts as a company and as a person, you want to come in and select which one by default is going to push out to Twitter. And that's done down right here. So it'll show the Twitter accounts, and you say, this is my one for business that I'm going to push out. More changes. So what we're seeing before and after is a couple of things. Before, and this is not by any way, shape, or form done because this announcement happened Friday, you're seeing the movement from the company here to here. They rolled this out with 6 or 7 companies, American Express being one of them, whereas your page image would be here. This is your custom company page. That image is now up here, and it puts your company up here. They also changed this around, so whereas products were a tab at the top, they're now over here on the right. Now, this was announced. It said this is the new look and feel for the thing. This is probably not going to roll out on everybody's pages for a while. And in social media, a while could mean 5 seconds ago or 5 months from now. They've announced that that doesn't mean it's going to be permanent. So they're kind of beta testing it, but saying this is what to expect. So you've got to remember where some of this stuff goes. Your products aren't going to display like they did before, how it renders, which means that you may have to change up what you did before if you did it before, because it's going to look different. Again, we're back to remember, this is what the Marine Corps can teach you. So you've got to improvise, adapt, and overcome. This is a constantly moving target. This is going to change over time. You're going to have to monitor it, come back, and adapt to it. The technology's growing. LinkedIn as a platform is a tool, like a cell phone. Just like a cell phone, if you're still using a Motorola flip phone from 2003, you don't have the functions there. When you upgrade to the new phone, a smartphone, you can do more with it. They're giving you new functions, so you've got to come in and explore the functions that are there. So here's the key takeaways. The first one I'd really like to bring some attention to. A very famous Marine saying, actually, from the Chosin Reservoir. He says, we're surrounded. That simplifies things. We know where they're all at. Social media is surrounding you. It's all around you. That simplifies things. You know where it's at. Now you just got to take care of the problems. So here's the key things I want to leave you with. Fill in all the fields. I cannot repeat that enough. Do not leave a blank field. Connect to everyone you know. Make sure that you're open to connections. Develop a departmental outline for LinkedIn profile settings. I touched upon this, but I'd like you to remember this. Develop a departmental level outline for your profiles. So remember I said everybody can link to a different area, on the website in particular. Who's going to do what? What are the tasks that each department has? If it's an HR department, that landing page should take to the application to work for your company if you've got job openings. If this is an engineering department, that should take you to an engineering blog on that profile. Think about who's going to take where on those landing pages. If it's the engineering manager, if it's technical support, if it's customer support, where's the most logical place that you want those customers to go from that person? Because they're going to be in that product or services area. Think it through. It's going to take you a minute or two to map this out, but you want to have that plan. That plan is going to make your life easier. People are going to find who to contact and deal with in your company quicker. So this is the whole who targets whom. Who in your company is going after what area? So if you've got a larger sales organization and you deal with aerospace and defense and you deal with automotive and you've got automotive specialists and you've got aero def guys, who's leading them where? Define who's in charge of which area and have them target it. Leverage your companies at the individual level. So just as I described earlier, here's a CNC operator and his sister-in-law is CFO of your target company. Until you get everybody connected and you dump all your own databases in, don't go mining and say, I want to do business with this company. What if you could just go to a barbecue with them? You don't know who's connected to who. And definitely create your company profile. You've got to fill in your company profile. It's going to be changing, but update it. Look for the fields on there and have a plan on that.